SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
If you're feeling anxious about your investments with all the economic volatility and chaos in Washington, tune in to SuperTalk Jackson on Wednesdays from 9 to 10 a.m. and Sundays from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. for Element Wealth Radio with Jeremy Nelson. Learn more at myelementwealth.com.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive.
Hey, good morning. Welcome in. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Thanks for being with us. Today is Tuesday. It's the 13th of January, and we're glad to have you along for the ride. A little bit different backdrop for me today. I am coming to you from Knoxville, Tennessee this morning. I've got basketball tonight, Texas A&M and Tennessee on the SEC network. So Lance told me it looked like an art museum. I didn't know if it was like art museum or my grandmother's house, but I've got the striped couch for the setup today. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning. Yeah, I was impressed, brother. It looked good. I was like, man, what a backdrop. That's a good change up. Nice little some flowers in there and some stripes, little Navajo print, and then a dark wall. That's pretty cool. It's very bougie, you know.
Yeah. I am at the Graduate Hotel in downtown Knoxville.
Here we go.
Just a couple of blocks from campus, so not a bad setup.
Yeah, I've worked at a Graduate for a while, so yeah, they're really nice, man.
Yeah, really good spot. And it's pretty chilly here this morning, just like it is back home. But going to be warm up, and going to be nice throughout the course of the day. You're waking up into temperatures in the upper 20s, low 30s across the state of Mississippi. Pontotoc today, sunny for you, high of 62, winds out of the southwest at 10 to 15 miles an hour, so it's going to be breezy. Indianola going to blow a little bit harder for you, 10 to 20, with winds out of the south and southwest, 63 degrees with abundant sunshine. Bay Springs, you've got intervals of clouds and sunshine today, 61 degrees for the high. Winds out of the west, southwest at 5 to 10, and Woodville, southwest Mississippi, partly cloudy skies this morning, giving way to cloudy skies during the afternoon, 61 degrees with winds light and variable for you as well. This is what you said you wanted yesterday, Lance. You said you were ready for winter that kind of felt like winter, not getting the 70 degrees during the middle of January.
You got to have it. It makes you feel kind of like you got gypped a little bit. But so far, it's been a kind of warm, I'd say kind of warm. You had a couple freezing days, but this little stretch is going to be nice. So it ought to get everybody a little bit of what they want. Then I think it's followed by some rain potentially. That always is great. So it'll be winter, yeah.
Wintertime rain's kind of gross.
Yeah, it is not an enjoyable.
No. Robert Stack was born on this day in 1919, the American actor that was in The Untouchables, played Elliot Ness. Unsolved Mysteries, writers Written on the Wind as well, born in Los Angeles. Michael Bond was born in 1926, the English writer and children's author. Paddington Bear, that's who Michael Bond gets credit for, born in Newbury, England. American golfer Mark O'Meara, born on this day in 1957. He's 68 years old now, won the Masters and the British Open, and had a really, really good run. One of his bigger claims to fame, I suppose, is to just how close he was to Tiger Woods, as Tiger Woods was in his early days as a professional golfer.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, does he still play on the senior tour? I haven't heard the name in a while. I was curious if O'Meara was still knocking it around at all.
I don't know.
He was such a great golfer.
A lot of champions. Yeah. He was one of those guys that his success on the PGA Tour came later.
Right.
Like he was older when he had success, and so it felt like when he made the transition to Champions Tour, he was kind of playing his best golf at that point. Yeah. So it had some success there for a while. I don't know if he's still teeing it up or not. Probably so. It's kind of the beauty of golf, right?
Isn't it?
You never really grow out of it.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess eventually you do, but
I wouldn't grow out of it. But I'm the one that just likes to hit it as far as I can. So I think I would get less motivated as I started chopping it around a little bit, because my putting game has always been so terrible that it's like, at least enjoy one part of the game. I couldn't enjoy any of it, right?
Julia Louis-Dreyfus, 1961 is when she was born, the comedian and actress. She, of course, played Elaine on Seinfeld. She was on SNL and Veep as well. Born in New York City. Patrick Dempsey, the star from Grey's Anatomy, although I guess Meredith Grey was really the star, but one of the stars from Grey's Anatomy was born on this day in 1966 in Lewiston, Maine.
Wasn't it?
That guy has got a head of hair.
Yeah, Can't Buy Me Love with Elizabeth Shue. Isn't that the one where he was like on the lawnmower and all that? When it was like an '80s movie. I know you're an Elizabeth Shue fan. Yeah.
I love the movie Can't Buy Me Love. Also,
is that not the right one?
Patrick Dempsey was in that.
I'm trying to think of the one that he was in with Elizabeth Shue. That may not be the right name. Let me find that. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. It was a great movie though of that time. Let's see.
Cindy Mancini was the girl in that movie, right?
I don't know. I can't remember. You got me here. It was called, I don't know. Let's see.
You just took me down the Can't Buy Me Love rabbit hole.
I thought that was it. Yeah. No, maybe I'm wrong. Cindy Mancini. Yeah, she's in Can't Buy Me Love. Okay, I'll find it. Yeah.
Maybe you can help us out on the C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. It's the best way for you to connect with us. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395, cspire.com. C-Spire, customer inspired. Orlando Bloom is 48 today, the English actor that was in Pirates of the Caribbean and Lord of the Rings. He was born in Canterbury, England. Liam Hemsworth, 35 years old, the Australian actor from the Hunger Games films, born in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia.
Another head of hair there. That's a good one.
Yeah.
It looks like Thor.
Did you ever figure out the...
I think you were right. It's Mancini. I was off on that. I thought it was Elizabeth Shue, though, but yeah, you learn.
I thought that was her character name, though.
Maybe. Well, okay. Yeah.
You know what? We'll clean it up.
No. You were right. I was trying to hurry and do that, and I think it is Elizabeth Shue and Dempsey, and she's known as she's Mancini, right? Yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
What a great movie.
That's the role that she played.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I was right. I hadn't seen it in 20-something years, probably.
At least.
Yeah.
At least that long. Today in 1962, Chubby Checker's song The Twist was credited with starting the twist dance craze. Went to number one on the charts for the second time. So when Chubby Checker released his catchy pop song The Twist in 1960, few could have imagined that it would be responsible for a dance craze that would sweep the entire Western world in the early 1960s. The dance itself had existed in its modern form since the 1950s. Checker released the single in 1960, and eventually it claimed the top spot, September of that year. Over the next 2 years, though, as the craze took hold, the song re-emerged as a number one hit on January 13th of 1962. The Twist was a watershed moment for rock and roll. The sight of celebrities doing the dance helped popularize it with adults, making them more accepting of the genre for kids, and everybody was doing the twist, Chubby Checker style. This day in 1968, Johnny Cash performed for inmates at Folsom State Prison in California. The show was recorded for live album release. Can't you hear him, Lance?
Oh, I love that song.
I'm Johnny Cash.
The thing that brought him back too. Yeah, he was kind of minimalized a bit. That song and that performance brought him back. And then if I remember correctly, not long after that, he released and recorded and released the album Johnny Cash at San Quentin, which really cemented him as, as he got older, as one of the greats.
It doesn't matter how deep your voice is. You can't get as deep as him.
No.
Even just to go,
Hello,
"Hello,
how you doing?"
I'm Johnny Cash." Yeah. 1983, the American Medical Association, they had seen enough. They had watched Muhammad Ali's condition deteriorate and said, you know what? We are urging a ban on boxing. People did not listen. 1992, American serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer pled guilty but insane. So he admitted to the killings, but he was like, I'm crazy.
Yeah,
Another guy that was crazy, Tanya Harding's bodyguard, Sean Eric Eckhart and Derek Bryan Smith, her bodyguards, were arrested and charged with conspiracy in the attack of the figure skater Nancy Kerrigan. That was on this day in 1994. 5 years after that, in 1999, basketball superstar Michael Jordan announced his second retirement from the game just prior to the start of the lockout-shortened 1998-99 NBA season. 2 years later, he would come back again with the Washington Wizards. The chapter of Michael Jordan's career that we all want to forget. Quick time out. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Just getting started with you. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday, the 13th of January.
From the Venable Glass.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Patrick Dempsey played Ronald Miller. Amanda Peterson played Cindy Mancini in Can't Buy Me Love. 1987
all over
is when that came out.
So I threw Van Halen in there, a little 80s jump for you.
I love it.
I love 80s music, though.
And let's be honest, as great a movie is as Can't Buy Me Love was and is, if Elizabeth Shue plays the role of Cindy Mancini instead of Amanda Peterson, it gets like Emmys and Golden Globes and Oscars, and it becomes one of the greatest films of all time.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that, yeah.
It's just
what I was thinking. I was thinking too grandiose.
Should have been Elizabeth Shue.
I agree.
C-Spire text line, you're keeping it straight. That blonde that Patrick Dempsey paid was not Elizabeth Shue. No. She looks similar, though.
Yeah,
she did.
Yeah. It's just been a long time since I got to have to go back and watch that one.
Cece in Senatobia. Her name is Amanda Peterson, who played Cindy Mancini. Somebody said it was indeed Can't Buy Me Love. Patrick Dempsey also in Sweet Home Alabama. Yeah. Although a more minor role. He was Reese Witherspoon's fiancé, who was coming down from New York.
My fiancé.
That's right.
Yeah, Josh Lucas was the actual husband in it, right?
Jake?
Josh Lucas, doesn't he do the Lowe's commercials or something?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not questioning that. I was trying to remember his character's name.
Yeah.
Either he was Jake or one of the other guys was Jake.
He was estranged, or either she was. When he lived back home, and she had moved off to big times and came home. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, but turns out he was big time, and she didn't know about it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
We got a message from, I live in Woodville but work all week at Parchman, so it makes my day when you mention the Woodville weather. Have a super day. That's from Andrew.
That's a
Andrew,
commute.
Thanks, man.
If you had to drive that every day, that's a commute there.
Yeah.
But no, I'm sure there's a place
long
for
drive,
yeah,
right?
Long drive. The home of Matt Tolbert too, as well, a great old
Miss
infielder and major leaguer.
Sean's a big Tennessee fan. He says, Richard, in God's country this morning, go Vols. He's a VFL, Vol for life.
Okay.
He hits us with a GBO and an orange emoji and all the things. So, Sean, good to be with you this morning.
Make sure you put the golf ball in there. Since we share misery nowadays with Tennessee and Ole Miss, the golf ball has to be like a key piece of this relationship.
Yeah. One of the neat things about the graduate hotels, they all kind of tie to the theme, the local theme. And so there's one in Oxford, and, they've got some local art, and the key cards are, Eli Manning's picture on them, and other former Ole Miss football players and special people in program history. So one of the sayings that John Ward had when he was the announcer for Tennessee right before kickoff, he would finish with, "It's football time in Tennessee." Well, they've got a painting. I say it's a painting. It's more like a mural on the wall. Big orange painted state of Tennessee on there. And then out of alarm clocks, like old-timey alarm clocks, they're all mounted on the mural of the state of Tennessee, and it just says football time.
Ah, okay.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Saw that when I went downstairs for coffee this morning. A couple of other things that happened on this day in history. Bill Gates stepped aside as chief executive of Microsoft, promoting the company president Steve Ballmer to the position. That was on this day in 2000. 2019, Lionel Messi scored for FC Barcelona in a 3-0 win. It was his 400th goal in La Liga. He became the first player to reach the mark in just a single of Europe's top five leagues. Cristiano Ronaldo had 409 goals, but he did it across the professional leagues of Spain, England, and Italy. So Messi did it in just a single league. Do you remember this from 2 years ago, 2024? On this day, the Arctic blast made its way across the country. 44 million people were under winter weather advisories. Chester, Montana registered the record low temperature in the U.S. of 54 degrees below zero.
Ooh.
And Lance, I vaguely remembered it, but it's amazing what your phone is in terms of an encyclopedia. So I just scrolled back to this day, and sure enough, it was the night of January 13th, and that snow and ice started kind of rolling in right around dark. And then we had a couple of snow days, kids sledding all over the place, and it was cold.
I spent the night up here. Yeah, I slept in the office up here that night, and got up early for the show. So I vividly remember that. Yes, sir. And when you talk about 54 degrees below zero, Lordy, man, I mean, you can't have a room temp beer. That thing would be hard as a rock.
Yeah, well,
keep that in the microwave or something.
Oh, mate. I was interested in this as well. Happened a year ago today, but I bet it's not something that you've even heard of. I certainly had not. Maybe you're more cultured than I am. The world's largest religious festival was held 1 year ago, the Mahakumbh Mela. Over 400 million people in India. It's held every 12 years, but 2025 was the Grand Kumbh Mela. It's only held once every 144 years. Lance, the size and the scope of this is hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah, I mean, when a little less than half your country shows up for something, and that's 400 million people, goodness gracious. I can't imagine that.
They built a temporary city covering 4,000 hectares, which is about almost 10,000 acres. The budget for the event was $750 million, but it generated more than $24 billion in revenue.
Goodness.
They had over 4,000 acres of parking for this deal. Now, they set up 15,000 toilets and urinals in the Mahakumbh area, and a monitoring system was launched to track sanitation levels in the toilets. About 10,000 sanitation workers were engaged for cleaning activity. One cleaner for every 10 toilets, with a supervisor monitoring a batch of 10 such personnel.
I mean, just looking at the image of this, I can't really fathom what all had to go into the creation, the construction, the logistics. I mean, you're talking about how many thousand porta potties? I mean, that's not a good job to have, but 10,000 people are called in for 400 million. That seems like a light amount of numbers of sanitation for 400 million, but the pictures of this are absolutely outrageous, man. I mean, goodness gracious.
Yeah. It was crazy. You bring that many people together, you're going to have some issues, and they did have some issues. There was a fire and some car accidents, but honestly, for that big of a gathering, not too bad.
Now, I like the sign for the Indian dollar or whatever it's called. I can't remember. It's not the renminbi, I don't believe, but the little, like you got the pound and the dollar and all that.
Sure.
Theirs is pretty interesting looking. I mean, I didn't know what it was until I saw it. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, $2 trillion in their money is what they were able to rake in. Like you said, $24 billion. Whew.
Yeah, it's wild. C-Spire text line is open, 601-879-4395. Couple of news headlines for you this morning. One, the passing of an absolute icon in the state of Mississippi. He was a tire mogul. He was a humanitarian. He was responsible for many, 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 many people going to college that perhaps otherwise would not have. On Sunday evening at his Panola County home, surrounded by family, friends, and his 9 beloved rescue dogs, Robert H. Bob, Mr. Bobby Dunlap, passed away.
What a great guy, man.
Such a good friend to so many. A friend of ours at SuperTalk, Mississippi, a dear friend to all the great people at Palmer Home for Children. I had the pleasure a couple of years ago of being on the air at our Palmer Home for Children radiothon when we got the word, and it was a bit of a surprise. A little peek behind the curtain. Sometimes we know what's coming with regard to the radiothon. We did not know when Mr. Bobby reached out and made a significant donation to Palmer Home for Children. You want to talk about a guy that meant a lot to his hometown, to his home county, employed thousands upon thousands, not just at the Dunlap and Kyle headquarters, but at the Gateway tire stores all over the state of Mississippi, all over the South, a true icon in the state of Mississippi. We offer our most sincere condolences to all of his family and close friends.
From the Seabrook.com.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Sweet Jane, yeah, sweet, sweet Jane, waiting for Jimmy down in the alley. Waiting there for him to come back home. Waiting down on the corner, thinking of ways to get back home.
Good to be with you this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Just after 6:30, as you get your day started, we wish you well. I don't know why, but being in a different time zone throws me for a loop. I feel like I'm late for everything, Lance, because I mean it's 7 o'clock. It's 7:38 where I sit here in East Tennessee this morning, and we should be farther along in the show. We should be talking with Peter Costa right now. What's going on? Oh wait, we got to do a sports update. It's only 6:38, and
we're so creatures of habit with clock in this business. Yeah, it's hard to reprogram yourself for one day.
Yeah. And especially when it's like just off by an hour. It's
like perfect.
Wait, this doesn't make sense. But A couple other news headlines. A suspect has been identified and brought into custody in the synagogue fire in Mississippi, the Beth Israel synagogue fire. Same place that was bombed by the Ku Klux Klan back in the 60s, and young man admitted to targeting the historic institution because it's a Jewish house of worship, and confessed what he had done to his father. Father turned him into authorities after observing burn marks on his son's ankles, hands, and face, the FBI said on Monday. Stephen Pittman, charged with maliciously damaging or destroying a building by means of fire or an explosive. It will be interesting to see if those charges are elevated into domestic terrorism charges. Fire ripped through the Beth Israel congregation in Jackson shortly after 3 a.m. on Saturday. No congregants or firefighters were injured. Security camera video released Monday by the synagogue showed a masked and hooded man using a gas can to pour liquid on the floor and a couch in the building's lobby. This was after he had used an axe to break a window and get into the building. 5 Torahs, the sacred scrolls with the text of the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, located inside the sanctuary, were being assessed for smoke damage. 2 of them in the library where the most severe damage was done were destroyed. 1 Torah that survived the Holocaust was behind glass and was not damaged in the fire, according to folks in the congregation. During an interview with investigators, Pittman said that he had stopped at a gas station on his way to the synagogue to purchase the gas that he used in setting the fire. Also took the license plate off of his vehicle at the gas station. He used an axe to break out a window to get in, poured gas inside, and used a torch lighter to start the fire, according to the FBI affidavit. The FBI later recovered a burned cell phone believed to be Pittman's, took possession of a hand torch that a congregant had found as well. Zach Schemper is the congregation's president. He has vowed to rebuild the synagogue and said several churches had offered their spaces for worship during the rebuilding process. Young man that was 19 years old. Private school education in the Jackson area. Playing junior college baseball at Coahoma Community College this past year.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
It's like, who did what to you to create the level of evil, the level of hatred in your heart, in your soul, to do this? Like, what happened? Doesn't there have to be a tipping point?
I mean, you would think. I mean, history's so full of anti-Semitism, and on this day in history, there was, back in the late 1800s, you had the Dreyfus Affair was still bubbling and emanating, and you had the 200,000 letters that were received and written on his behalf after he'd already been in prison in Devil's Island. But, you saw that as a major move of anti-Semitism just in France. I mean, and I always think back on those things and just wonder why. Why is it that this stuff continues like it does? I mean, generation after generation, the hatred. And we've got to find a better way to deal with things than having hatred in your heart, because this is, again, a young man here had his life in front of him and made a stupid decision out of hatred, and it's not going to end good for him.
Stupid decision, certainly, but there's more to it than just a stupid decision.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is a hate-filled, evil decision.
And you go look at a young man.
I mean, a stupid decision is, the kid that goes out and is looking for a little vandalism and tips over a porta potty, or sprays some graffiti somewhere, or, does donuts in the high school parking lot, and okay, that's vandalism and that's stupid. We're talking about setting fire to a house of worship because you don't like the faith of an entire group of people
Well,
that have done what?
Yeah, that's the question.
To you.
Right. That, and you're not born this way. You're not born with hate in your heart.
No.
You're not born with stupidity. You learn all this stuff as you go. And, you got to wonder, where does it come from? But you look at the young man in his picture with Kahoma, and, smiling, good-looking young guy.
Yeah,
life in front
like
of him. Looked
normal
like a normal
young
kid.
man.
Yeah, normal kid.
Well, his life has changed drastically forever, without question. It is time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Find them online at pearlriverresort.com. Your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. 32 days away from the start of the college baseball season. A lot of hope in Starkville. New head coach Brian Connor, a transfer portal class full of high-caliber players. A lot of steam in the media for this Mississippi State baseball team, who notches a preseason ranking of number 4 in D1 Baseball's preseason poll. Mississippi State is behind UCLA, LSU, and Texas. Southern Miss is in the preseason top 25 at number 20. Ole Miss not ranked in the preseason poll. I was texting with Kendall Rogers a little bit last night. I was like, okay, not much of a track record for Ole Miss. No reason to think that they would be one of the top 25 teams in the preseason, right, fella? And he was like, I was a little higher on them than some of our other staff. I was like, sure you were.
I think it's a sleepy good team as far as the roster goes. And, you got to get out there and play, but you can't ever count Mike Bianco out. That's one thing I know, is when you think that it's all lost and there ain't no good a coming, that dude right there will go out and pull off 50 wins on it. So I'm looking forward to it. There should be 3 really good baseball teams in the state of Mississippi this year.
Yep. Southern Miss, led by Christian Ostrander, they are looking to extend their Division I leading streak of 40-plus win seasons to 10 in a row. Would like to get back to Omaha for the first time since 2009. A lot of pieces returning for the Golden Eagles. Matthew Russo had 19 home runs a year ago. Dre Barrett, that utility player. Ben Higdon in the outfield. Tucker Stockman behind home plate. And then got some arms as well, including Cross Sibley. And Josh Ock returning for Oz's ball club. And, of course, Brian O'Connor, 22 years in Charlottesville as the head coach of the Virginia Cavaliers. Pair of national championships in 2011 and 2015. Hopes very, very high in year one for Brian O'Connor with the Mississippi State baseball team, the Diamond Dogs.
As a guy like that that's coached so much, had so much success, won the Natties and all that, I wonder what it's going to feel like to be in front of all of those amazing fans in that palatial stadium that has been created, almost a shrine to college baseball. I mean, you got to think you've gone to heaven if you're him right now. Not that he didn't have a great gig, but wow. I mean, this is going to be fun to watch.
It will be. He is one of the great coaches in all of college baseball. Wrapped up the wild card weekend last night. Texans beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 30-6. Got away from the Steelers in the fourth quarter. 23 fourth quarter points by the Texans. And so that sets up the matchups for next weekend with the division round games. That will get started on Saturday afternoon. Bills at Broncos. And you got the 49ers at Seahawks in the nightcap on Sunday, the early afternoon game. 3 o'clock start. Texans and Patriots from Foxborough. And then the Rams and the Bears on Sunday night. That's your setup for the NFL playoff division round coming up this weekend. A couple of other sports stories I'll mention to you coming up in just a minute. Got to get a lottery update as well when we come back. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Good morning to you.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. It is Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Find them online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Alongside Lance Holbert, I'm Richard Cross. Pleasure to be with you this morning. Thanks, as always, for joining us, starting your day with us. All right, your Mississippi Lottery update, mslottery.com. That's the website. You know to go there and check out all of the numbers. No jackpot winner last night in Powerball. Estimated cash value up to almost $71 million with a $156 million jackpot. Tonight's Mega Millions drawing up to $215 million. Cash value on that closing in on $100 million. All right, have you heard about the daily cash for phenomenon that's going on right now? Are you familiar with this, Lance?
No.
Double quad drawings. Mississippi Lottery players are cashing in. After some incredible double quad drawings, there have been more than 500 winning tickets so far. On Friday night, 4-4-4-4 with a fireball of 4 hit. And then the midday drawing on Monday, yesterday, 1-1-1-1 with a fireball of 1.
Ooh. That's not supposed to happen.
It happened twice in 3 days. It's incredible. Download the Mississippi Lottery app to check your tickets anytime. If you played Cash 4, don't wait. Scan your ticket. See if you are one of the lucky winners. You might not even have to scan your ticket. Like, you probably just can remember if you went with 4 1s or 4 4s, hope you did it on the right day. I mean, we could read these for hours. A Hamilton man, $10,400 in Aberdeen. Shell, $45 in Aberdeen. Yazoo City, Robinsonville, Hattiesburg, Crystal Springs, Byram, Ware, Hazelhurst, Jackson, Starkville, Jackson, Pearl, Jackson, Starkville. Man won $26,000 on 10 tickets from Sprint Mart in Starkville on Cash 4. So a bunch of big winners there. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. This morning in the 7:30 time slot, Peter Costa will join us, former governor on the New York Stock Exchange and a market analyst for CNBC. We will talk with him about what's going on at the DOJ with Jerome Powell, the potential indictment for lying about the cost of the renovation of the Fed, political games, or is there something to it? And what about all these data centers that are popping up, these massive investments that are happening? How heavily should you be in AI-related stocks? Certainly not anything that is going anywhere anytime soon. We'll talk with all of those things about Peter. Talk about all of those things with Peter coming up at 7:30 this morning. And then at 8 o'clock, the Attorney General, Lynn Fitch, will join us, as will Laurie Todd-Smith. Got some cool stuff happening in the education world, some partnerships that are happening between the state of Mississippi and the Department of Education. So good stuff there. Looking forward to that conversation as well. Brooks Koepka is returning to the PGA Tour, but it's not going to be cheap for him. Now, he went and got a bunch of money playing on the LIV Tour for the last couple of years, and now he is returning to the PGA Tour, something that a lot of people thought wasn't going to be possible. There's a new commissioner at the PGA, and they have created a way for him to come back. If you won a major or the Players, between 2022 and 2025, then you are eligible to return. Brooks Koepka is having to make a $5 million charitable donation in conjunction with the PGA Tour, and he is not eligible for any of the equity money that the PGA Tour is bringing in. Could be, depending on how well he plays, somewhere between $80 and $100 million that he won't be eligible for. He'll only be eligible for prize money and, of course, sponsor money. The question remaining, though, is will others follow suit? John Rahm is one that falls into that category. Bryson DeChambeau falls into that category, and so does Cameron Smith. So kind of a limited number of people that could make that transition back if they wanted to, but Brooks Koepka coming back to the PGA Tour. And then one other sports note for you as we wrap things up here in the 6 o'clock hour. This would be interesting to some. NASCAR, after a nearly 2-year study into an overhaul of its championship deciding format, concluded Monday with the reveal that in 2026 the Stock Car Series will return to a 10-race version, closely resembling the first iteration that was introduced 22 years ago. NASCAR still popular, does not have the level of popularity that it had a couple of decades ago, or 3 or 4 decades ago, and trying to go back and resonate with fans. So they will implement the 10-race championship series starting this year. 1 hour in the books.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Mornings with Richard Cross, here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the SuperTalk app.
It's a holy place, my dad showed me. Back before this land was mine.
Welcome again, 7 o'clock hour, Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi, wherever you're listening, however you're listening or watching. We appreciate you being part of the conversation. Best way to do that is on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Whether you're looking for the best in wireless with nationwide 5G coverage, the best in internet, fiber to the home, blazing fast internet speeds, a gigabit and more directly into your home, or you're looking for the best in IT services, the business IT team at C Spire has you covered. Learn more online at cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. Mornings is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. It is, I think, hard for us to comprehend what is going on in Iran right now. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can provide a full range of employer services and a custom plan that fits you. Give them a call to learn more. The number is 601-206-7966. Online, MWGEmployerServices.com. We are so incredibly reliant on being connected, right? Connected with our phone, connected with internet. We were just talking about C Spire a second ago. We are connected to each other and to the world digitally. The idea of not having the ability to communicate, whether it is as simple as picking up the phone and calling your husband or your wife, calling your parents, calling your kids to check in, the idea of not being able to do that is almost unfathomable. Occasionally, there will be a glitch that will knock X offline or knock Instagram or Facebook offline, and it sends us into a borderline panic. Imagine being without communication to your loved ones, to the outside world at all, for over a week. December 28th is when Iran stripped its people of internet access, phone access, and the ability to communicate with the outside world. If you are a little confused or you feel like the news that you're getting from Iran is being censored or filtered, you're not alone. The Iranian people have had no way to communicate out what is going on. And what is happening in Iran right now is a revolution. The Iranian people are trying to take back their country from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. It is the regime that is led by Ali Khamenei, and we don't even know for sure that he's still in Iran. There's been some talk that perhaps he has abandoned the country, escaped the country, and yet he still controls the messaging. He still controls state media. And so you've got propaganda that is being run through state entities there, and it's talking about and showing pictures of pro-government protests. People who are chanting death to America and death to the infidels and all of these things. But you're also seeing some images of anti-government protests. Over 600 people have been killed so far. Those are the official numbers that we have gotten. I've seen reports online, and, who knows how accurate these are, that the number is somewhere closer to 12,000 people who have been killed. There is a massive government security presence that is in place everywhere, especially in the capital city of Tehran. The marketplace there, called the Bazaar, has been closed, but there is a report from the Associated Press that the Bazaar will be open today, despite the fact that there's not a lot of foot traffic during the daylight hours. Some reporting that state leaders, government officials have demanded that shop owners in the Bazaar open their shops today. It's like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain, nothing to see here, carry on, carry on. There were a few Iranians under the condition of anonymity that were able to speak with the Associated Press Bureau in Dubai. One shopkeeper named Mahmoud said, "My customers talk about Trump's reaction while wondering if he plans a military strike against the Islamic Republic. I don't expect Trump or any other foreign country cares about the interests of Iranians." That's the sentiment from one person that is in Iran. A taxi driver who gave only his first name said protests remain on many people's minds. People, particularly young ones, he said, are hopeless, but they talk about continuing the protests. Several people in Tehran able to get somewhat of a message out. They described anti-riot police officers wearing helmets, body armor, carrying batons, shields, shotguns, tear gas launchers, police standing at major intersections, members of the Revolutionary Guards, all volunteer force carrying similar firearms and batons, plainclothes officers visible in public spaces. And one of the things that some Iranians have been able to do to get information from the outside world or to the outside world is use their Starlink satellites. And that's something that has actually been against the law in Iran for a while, but it has become so prevalent in recent years that they've kind of stopped trying to enforce that. That has changed. You've got military personnel and state police officers who are searching building to building for satellites. They're confiscating Starlink. There's been some discussion, Donald Trump even alluded to the fact that Elon Musk might come to the rescue and the aid of the people of Iran by launching Starlink satellites that would beam down and give people access to internet and to the outside world. It's hard to really fully engage in a revolution when you can't communicate. And so I go back to where I started. I really think it's hard for us to wrap our minds around what the Iranian people are dealing with right now.
I think Mahmoud said it best. They seem to be in a state of despair a little bit, where they just don't believe the world understands what their needs are and doesn't care. And I disagree with that. I truly do.
No, I think the outside world does care, but maybe doesn't understand the level of despair that exists right now.
Well, when you have their dice runs into their parliament and is hollering death to America, death to Israel, being broadcast everywhere.
Yeah.
Brother Mahmoud, let me tell you, as long as you don't support that, we're with you.
And that brings us to President Trump and the place that he is right now. It's a delicate moment as he is weighing whether or not to order military strikes in response to the violent crackdown on the protest. He has repeatedly threatened Tehran with military action if his administration found that the IR was using deadly force against anti-government protesters. That is the quote-unquote red line that Trump has said he believes Iran is starting to cross. But the U.S. military, Trump says, is locked and loaded, appears at least for now to being on standby mode. And there is a report that Tehran has reached out to the United States to talk, to negotiate. I guess my question is, what is there to talk about? Now, we can have a very real debate about whether or not the United States should take military action, or if you look at it and you go, this is their problem in a different world, a different part of the world. Which maybe goes back to what Mahmoud said just a moment ago, that quote that I read where he's like, does anybody care outside of Iran? We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Great being with you this morning on Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Thanks for joining us. I'm seeing more and more information based on verified sources from Iran. Over 12,000 Iranians were murdered by the regime, by the direct order of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, on January 8th and January 9th. It's going to be really, really hard to verify those numbers. We were just talking a moment ago about the lack of communication in and out because the government has shut down internet communication. There is still access to some state-run sites, so they're able to get their propaganda out. But in terms of messaging or information to and from the outside world, outside the borders of Iran, very, very limited, although there's a lot of reporting that is going on. We got a message on the ceasefire text line. Why should we rescue them when they are chanting death to America? I think that's the point here. The regime that is in charge wants the rest of the world, especially the evil Americans, to believe that is the sentiment from Iran. And so there are pro-government protests and rallies that are happening where you are having those things. But you've got tens of thousands of primarily younger people in Iran who are challenging the government, who are protesting against the government and against this evil regime that's been in charge for so many years now. And that's not what they are chanting. You remember when the strike of the nuclear facility happened, we kind of went back and looked at some of the history of Iran, and Tehran in particular and other parts of the country were, back in the 70s and the 80s, thriving, vibrant communities with rich history. I think it was yesterday where it wasn't an op-ed, but it was an essay that was was posted on X that I read yesterday, where it talked about, conflating Islam with race as opposed to doctrine. And one of the points they made was, much of the world assumes that all of Iran is Islam, and it's rooted in that culture, and, all Arabs are Islam. But Iran's history is Persian, not Arab, at least for much of the country. And even though it has been squashed and squelched by the government there, a lot of those ideals and a lot of those beliefs exist. And so when you say, why should we rescue them when they're chanting death to America, we're talking about two different groups of people within the Iranians. This revolution is about them becoming a free and democratic society, not a, sole leader squashing all freedoms, supporting Sharia law, etc. Some of the other messages from you on the ceasefire text line. Regarding Iran, I've read many reports that the citizens are forced at gunpoint to join the protest against America, shouting death to America, etc. They have no choice if they don't want to see their families killed. An evil, evil regime. Russ and Rankin says to negotiate with the current powers that be in Iran, that includes that power structure remaining would be the equivalent of trying to determine how much poison is okay. There can be no amount remaining that is okay. Somebody said they only hate us because of our insane, one-sided relationship with Israel. Oh, that's certainly not the only reason they hate us. They hate everything that America stands for. Another message. It's almost ironic that you see so many of these Middle Eastern countries trying to run from radical Islam and radical Islamic ideals, and we've got Americans that are running toward it. Yeah. I think that's the point that I was making yesterday. If you were with us yesterday morning, we have example after example in real time of how true socialism doesn't work. It is a failed experiment many times over. Now, Thomas brought up a point yesterday, and I think it's relevant, and it's one that you are seeing and hearing in different parts of American media, is that, yeah, but some of the things that Donald Trump is proposing or is pushing for have some socialistic tendencies to them. And we're talking about, state-owned, not just property, but but the United States government taking stakes in companies. I think there's some truth to that, and it's a little scary. I don't actually believe that. Well, hold on, let me back up for a second. There are these two dueling ideas, right? We look at people like Mamdani in New York City, who is a proclaimed socialist, Democrat socialist. We hear Bernie Sanders talk. We hear Ilhan Omar and AOC and others talk about, okay, providing more for citizens, and these are steps towards socialism. And most of us view that as, well, that's evil. That's wrong. But then the flip side is there are some things at the highest level of government where you've got some socialistic tendencies in the ideas of the government taking major stakes in companies and redistributing that. I think the president is looking at that from a standpoint of making money for the United States. We have this massive deficit. We have this massive debt. It's about creating wealth, funding the initiatives that he's looking for. I honestly don't believe that there is a socialistic bone in Donald Trump's body. But some of the things that he's pushing line up with some socialistic ideas. And that's scary. How much is too much? Somebody says Trump is a populist, not a conservative, so it shouldn't surprise people that he leans towards socialism in certain aspects. I think that's a fair characterization. And then you look at something like what is happening with the Department of Justice and the DOJ investigating Fed Chair Jerome Powell, the backlash that is sparking even from Republicans in Congress, Republicans in the Senate, Republicans in the House. The Trump administration's criminal investigation of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell appeared on Monday to be emboldening defenders of the U.S. Central Bank who pushed back against President Donald Trump's efforts to exert more control over the Fed. The independence of the Federal Reserve Bank, people will tell you that are tied to markets and are tied to Wall Street and other, is of paramount importance. I mean, Donald Trump saying that we're going to cap interest rates on credit cards at 10%. Well, if you've got a big credit card balance and you're paying 17% or 19% or 23% right now, maybe on the surface that sounds like a good idea. But there are a lot of people that go, no, this is a terrible idea, because if you cap what credit card companies are able to charge in terms of interest rates, you're going to get a clamp down on credit. And only the most credit-worthy people are going to be able to get credit cards. You got a credit card right now, you may find that it's canceled, which could certainly hamper the way that we operate and the way that we do business. We're going to ask Peter Costa about that and a lot of other things when we come back. Peter, longtime market analyst at CNBC, former governor on the New York Stock Exchange. There's a lot going on economically. And Peter Costa had a column yesterday in his Costa's Corner newsletter where he talked about the oil companies and being maybe the one segment of the economy that Donald Trump can't actually push around. Quick time out. We're back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
I'm not saying.
From the Seabrook
Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Great being with you on this Tuesday morning. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming online at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV, available to you as well. Glad to be with you. Glad to welcome our first guest this morning. Peter Costa joins us. He is a former governor with the New York Stock Exchange, market analyst with CNBC, retirement, semi-retirement. Looks good on Peter. We've told you about his newsletter, Costa's Corner. It is a Substack newsletter. You can just Google Peter Costa, Costa's Corner, and it can be delivered to your inbox a couple of times a week. Peter, good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. Glad to be back, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. I am not in my normal location. My backdrop a little bit different today. I'm sitting at the Graduate Hotel in downtown Knoxville. A little basketball on Rocky Top tonight on television.
Yes. Yeah, I've been in that lobby, so I thought it looked familiar, but thank you for clarifying that. And it's good to have you in Knoxville. You know, that's the capital
I have not seen
right now.
You know, I haven't seen a wanted poster with your face on it so far, so I'm going to keep an eye out though.
No, that goes back too many years.
Statute of limitations is in place. Peter, we've got a lot going on in the world right now, so let's just jump in and I want to start with what I was mentioning before the break. The insinuation from Donald Trump that credit card companies were going to be capped at a 10% interest rate. Almost universally, people have looked at this and said, while that might be a nice thing, if I've got a big credit card balance or I'm using a credit card to borrow money or pay for things, in actuality, it is a terrible idea, and it really would create a credit crunch, especially for higher risk borrowers. Just give us your thoughts on the words of the president and the idea of capping interest on credit cards.
Well, I understand the president's, his thought process about trying to make things more affordable. I do get that, but I'm leaning more towards it probably won't work. And even if it does, they get this passed. I don't even know how he could do that because I think Congress would have to approve it. But if not, and he writes an executive order, it will impact a lot of people. And I think what will end up happening is, there'll be a lot of credit cards that'll be canceled, as you had said. Also, the cost of having a credit card. Now, I think American Express is the only company that actually charges for the privilege of having an American Express card. But I think Visa and MasterCard and Discover will help the banks figure out a way to try to get back some of that revenue that's lost, which means that even if you have good credit, you're going to get, a 10%, top on your credit card, but you're going to be paying some sort of fees along the way. And banks are notorious for fees. And I'm pretty sure that they're working right now to figure out how to try to at least get some of the revenue they feel they might lose should this get impacted. The thing that I read yesterday was that, they're talking about possibly $120 to $130 billion charge or savings. You could look at it both ways. As far as interest rates are going, I don't know. I mean, the banks are not going to sit still and not figure out a way to get that revenue back. So, I don't think it's a good idea. If they put a 15% cap on it, that might be more manageable. I think that the credit card companies, what they've done over the years is use their default rate for the reason for having interest rates at 18 and 20 and 22%. And in the last, during the pandemic, default rates went up, but since then they've gone down drastically. And I don't think there's a major issue with credit card defaults at this time. And to me, if that's the reason you're charging so much and the default rates are down, maybe you should lower your rates, organically, do it, without prompting from the president. So, I don't think it'll get passed. I think it's a shot across the bow. Excuse me. As you know, President Trump likes to shoot things out there and see what happens. And I think it'll get everybody to the table, and they'll try to work out a deal that will be more consumer friendly, but still try to. I'm sorry, I'm a frog in my throat. I think that they'll probably work out some sort of deal. I don't think it's going to end up being 10%.
Visiting with Peter Costa, former governor with the New York Stock Exchange, market analyst with CNBC. He's been in the finance world for a long time. We're a couple of weeks now removed from that audacious operation in Venezuela, in which the United States went in and arrested Maduro, brought him back to the United States. And there's been a lot of talk about the United States taking over the oil operations in Venezuela so that they can create a new market and make lots of money for Venezuela and make lots of money for the United States. But it's going to take the cooperation of oil companies going in and revamping the infrastructure in Venezuela to be able to produce these profits. There was a summit of sorts at the White House with major oil company executives, I guess it was on Thursday or Friday of last week. And you wrote about this yesterday, that the oil companies do not necessarily seem to be on board, at least not in totality, with this whole idea. Give us a little more insight there.
Well, I don't think the oil companies are on board because the risk that's they're about to take on, and any oil field is a risk. I mean, you watch Landman, you know how risky it is to drill for oil. But I think that the risk is not as far as physical. I think if there were no political issues or geopolitical issues or political. The political dynamics in Venezuela are much different than it is in Guyana, where they've been drilling for the last year and a half. That's the problem. I think that the oil companies will say that the expense is not worth what they're going to get out of the ground, but I think they're more worried about the risk of the corruption and the lack of any kind of political stability in the country. And I think that a lot of these oil companies are probably going to wait and see to see what develops over the next 6 months to a year. And, oil companies are very long term. I mean, they don't drill for tomorrow. They drill for 20 years from now. So I think that they can be patient and see what the outcome is, if there is one, as far as the politics in Venezuela. I think that's what concerns them more than anything else. And, one of the things I can't even remember what I wrote yesterday, but I think one of the things I mentioned was the people that are in power in Venezuela are corrupt. And, when Maduro was in charge, he was feeding them money. And, now that he's not there, the corruption, is it still there, or are they getting less, or they're not getting anything? There's a lot of things that need to, play out over the next few weeks, months, and possibly years. And I think the oil companies are just not biting on it. I think, there's a lot of oil out there in the world. There's a lot of different places to drill. Yes, Venezuela has the largest proven reserves, but 25 years from now, is that going to be important? So I think the oil companies are very cautious about dropping $10 or $20 billion for mediocre to low-grade crude, number one. I mean, it can be refined, but it's more expensive to refine. And I don't think they're really going to bite on this. I think that they're going to really hold, keep it close to the chest and see what develops politically. And I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen politically down there. I think that's one of the things that you can't guarantee anything when you don't know what everything is on the ground and how it's going to play out. And, every country's a risk, but I think Venezuela is a very, very high risk. And I think that's why they're staying. They're not committing fully to any kind of rebuilding of the infrastructure. I think that's going to take some time, a lot of time, as a matter of fact.
And it's incredible how interconnected geopolitics and markets are, in particular. How Wall Street reacts to that. And there's a similar conversation, different but similar, that is playing out with Greenland and this renewed interest in the United States and Greenland. I just can't help but wonder. I mean, we keep hearing this is a strategic security play. Is that what it is, or is it about minerals and oil and untapped resources in Greenland that Donald Trump sees and wants access to. Only 30 seconds till the break.
All right. Well, I think that, there is some strategic value to Greenland, but you don't need to take over a country to get that value. You can rent land or lease land and build out any kind of military infrastructure you want. And Greenland's very open to that. There's already a couple of bases up there. So I don't think that's a major issue. I think it is going forward towards the mineral content in the ground. And I think that they will work out a deal. I don't think the United States is taking over Greenland. I think there's going to be a deal worked out between the Danish government and the U.S. government, and everybody will be happy. And the only people that won't be happy are the Chinese or the Russians.
Well, and that may be a good thing. More with Peter Costa on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross, here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. My guest is Peter Costa, former governor with the New York Stock Exchange and longtime market analyst with CNBC. Peter, I want to switch gears for a second with you. We have seen a proliferation of announcements and construction of these massive data centers. Mississippi has been part of the boom on the data center front. An announcement last week of a $20 billion investment from XAI in South Haven, Mississippi. There's a $10 billion project in central Mississippi in Madison that's an Amazon data center. There's another $6 billion data center that is going in the central part of the state. And it's raising concerns to some degree at local level. So you get like two sides of the coin. You've got governors and development authority groups that are trumpeting these as wins economically for the states that are hosting them. But then you've got local residents with concern about perhaps rising power costs, water supply issues. What is the balance here with these data centers? Do you see a level of concern? Excuse me, now it's me that got the frog in my throat. And then maybe how all of this ties together is artificial intelligence continuing to just make leaps and leaps and leaps forward. We know that it's not going anywhere. I suppose the investment piece as it relates to AI stocks and AI companies kind of tying all of that together.
Well, I mean, Richard, that's a complicated question, or several questions. The first thing I think that, and Mississippi is, at the forefront right now because they've had such, success in drawing these data centers. But there are going to be problems. I mean, the infrastructure in Mississippi, Tennessee, and the Southeast is, 45 years old. And that infrastructure, it's actually older than that, it's tough to add that much power that quickly. So the cost of power is definitely going to go up because they're going to have to buy that power from somewhere. Because I don't think that in the Southeast mainly, the generating power is going to be up to snuff as far as what's going to be needed in the future. So to me, I think that's a major thing. And that's something that, I believe that they're going to be pushing nuclear power and nuclear generation. They're going to be pushing that a lot because that'll at least supplement what you need or what we need since I'm down here, to, keep costs relatively stable, because that was one of the reasons a lot of companies relocated to the South was the cost of electricity. So if that, starts meeting and going up to the level of the Northeast and the Midwest, companies may not want to relocate to the Southeast anymore because there's no cost advantage as far as that's concerned. Labor costs will be lower, but still, companies do look at everything. So I think that that's something that you got to be concerned about too. I mean, that's long term. You know, you have a lot of companies that want to build new plants in South Carolina, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and you know, if their expectation, excuse me, if their expectation of power cost is going to be exorbitant, they may rethink those plants. So that's the first thing. You know, and a lot of people, excuse me, a lot of people think that this is the be all to end all as far as, you know, there's somebody spending $10 billion. Most of that money is being spent on stuff that's going to be brought in. You know, the construction costs are going to be there and people will make money from construction. But after these buildings are built and the data centers are operational, they only need 50 or 100 people to service them. So to me, you're looking at something that you think it's going to be this godsend for your community, but at the end of the day, in 3 or 5 years when it's built, only 50, you know, maybe 100 people are actually going to be working there. So, you know, that's another thing is that, you know, this is the equipment that's going to be brought in, the cost of doing everything is not being dispersed in the state of Mississippi. It's, you know, they're buying these big server units from Taiwan Semiconductor or from Intel, and, you know, they're just being brought in and you know, assembled. So, yeah, it sounds like a lot of money and it sounds like a real great thing, but the residual results are the cost of electricity and the water damage that these facilities could potentially cause. But I do think, I read an article a couple of days ago that they've started to figure out the problem with water because they do consume a tremendous amount of water. And I think they'll build cooling towers and whatnot, and they'll kind of like, maybe it won't be as bad as I first thought. But
maybe so.
You know, it's inevitable.
Peter, we are out of time. I appreciate very much your time and your perspective in this conversation. Look forward to visiting with you again soon. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. I will tell you, related to what Peter was saying, some pushback from some of the economic development people in Mississippi that, hey, no, the power costs are not going to go up, and there are reasons for that we'll explain.
Your home, no matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP. You're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Eight o'clock hour, final hour of the show. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and Supertalk TV, and presented by Community Bank. Rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Got a couple of guests coming up, but quickly, I want to just put a bow on the end of the conversation that we were having with Peter Costa just a moment ago. To go along with those economic development projects in Mississippi, the XAI project in South Haven, the AWS data center in central Mississippi, XAI is building its own 1.9 gigabit power plant located right next to the data center. AWS paid for all of its power generation in advance of the construction, and we'll get into this more in the coming days. The water concern is actually something that may end up in a net positive on the water, as the plan is there's some regeneration where they're going to take sewer water, purify it, and use that, and so it may end up being better in the long run. We'll get more info on that and continue the conversation. But right now we've got guests, and so we'll move on with you this morning on Mornings with Richard Cross. Happy to welcome the Attorney General from the state of Mississippi, Lynn Fitch. Always a pleasure to visit with her. And also Laurie Todd-Smith. She's the Deputy Assistant Secretary at the Office of Early Childhood Development, an Office of the Administration for Children and Families, part of HHS. I think I joked with with Laurie Todd-Smith last time we were on. She needs a two-sided business card to get all of that information. Ladies, good morning to both of you. Thanks so much for joining me.
Good morning, Richard. Great to be with you this morning.
Good morning. Great to be back.
So let's just jump right in. A partnership between the Attorney General's office in Mississippi and the Department of Health and Human Services, specifically targeted for children in need in Mississippi. General Fitch, let's start with you. It's kind of lay the groundwork for this project.
Well, it's been great. You know, we have an incredible relationship, and everybody's working so well together because the ultimate goal is to help these children. And it is all about partnerships, bringing one another together, our different organizations, again, because we need to empower, uplift these children, protect them, and provide them a new journey because they need that hope. They need that love. They need that compassion. And that's exactly what we're doing today is a perfect example of bringing the great administration that Laurie the work that she and her team do, bringing the state agencies together, bringing the Attorney General's office together, CPS. Again, it just shows that there's such a compassionate side, and we want to make a difference in these children's lives. So that's what the suitcase bundling is about today. It's also about sharing best practices. Again, how can we, again, work with one another and utilize that for the benefit of our children?
Laurie, specifically the suitcase bundle program, what does this look like in practice?
Well, I think today we're going to do some touring and see various things throughout Mississippi of the work that's happening there. But from our federal office in Washington, D.C., one of the things that we're excited to talk about today is an initiative called A Home for Every Child. So really focusing in on foster children. I know in the past you've talked to me a lot about early childhood, but I promise you these two topics hold hands together and work really closely. But we have a national effort going on to really make sure that there are enough foster homes and that those homes are waiting for children and not the other way around. And so it's a campaign that we're aiming for a simple 1-to-1 ratio, foster homes to children. And right now there's 100 children in foster care, and there's only 57 licensed foster care homes nationwide. Is the ratio in Mississippi? It's even lower. It's 1 to 52. And so that leads to some disparities for children, and we want to work with the state of Mississippi and provide some support so that we can help improve that ratio and make sure children at a very traumatic time in their lives are getting what they need so the outcomes turn out better for the children and families.
You know, what you're saying really resonates. At SuperTalk, we have a partnership with Palmer Home for Children, and we've had a chance to see the impact that they make on children's lives. I've done some work with Sunnybrook Children's Home in the Jackson area in the past, and Sally Kate Winters Family Services is another place that works so closely with CPS to make sure that children are taken care of. And Attorney General Fitch, I know this is something that has been important to you. It's a conversation that we've had before, and the foster care issue, I think I'll refer to it that way in Mississippi. This is not a new problem. It's one that we've tried to bring awareness to, but the need is still incredibly large.
You're exactly right, Richard, and we've got to have the conversation. Then we got to take action because currently we have about 4,000 children that are wards of the state. And so we have just got to move those children into great, loving foster homes. We've got to be very supportive of them. And, you know, like specifically, like talking about the suitcase bundling, you know, sometimes these children come and they're bringing their belongings in a, you know, little sack, a little grocery bag, or whatever the case might be. And so this is the beginning of how we can help them. So bringing all these agencies together on the suitcase bundling, we're going to provide suitcases for them, Bibles, a stuffed animal, so that they have something of their own. And Focus on the Family has been amazing. They have sponsored and donated all these items, so we'll be packing those today. We'll pack about 1,300 of these suitcases so that they'll be ready with these foster children and to distribute to them. Again, they're lacking that uplifting, and we're going to step in here. And this is just one of the many examples, and I think that's so significant for all of us to make a difference. We need to continue to look at laws, strengthen our laws, be engaged from these children from the moment they get into the system, and how we can help cut that time process down for them so that we can get them into forever homes.
If you happen to have time to spare, just an hour today, and you are in central Mississippi, you can be part of this. If you go to the Attorney General's website, there is a QR code there where you can register. It's the Suitcase Bundle Program. Galloway Church today from 9 this morning until 3 this afternoon. 1-hour shifts are available where you can actually have your hands involved in this, in packing these suitcases. Laurie, one of the stories that has resonated with me is from one of these events that we've done, and the folks at Palmer Home were talking about exactly what the Attorney General just mentioned. There are times when they receive children who literally walk in with the clothes on their body and nothing else. They have no worldly possessions, or if they do, they may be in a garbage bag or a Kroger sack, and that's all they've got. What have you seen in terms of reaction from children when they get a suitcase that has a new stuffed animal in it and maybe has toiletries or a Bible in it, and that becomes theirs?
Yeah, that almost makes me cry thinking of the answer. I think in all of my years of experience in child development, that connection for those kids, it must be such a scary time, and to actually have something as simple as a stuffed animal as they're going through this difficult transition time of being pulled apart from families. I think there's probably a lot of research that supports a strong need for connection in some way. And I think Mississippi, of all the states I visited and all the states we're working with, we are particularly a very faith-filled state, and I just feel so proud that we're visiting a church today, that the churches are engaging in this issue, and I think that will continue to serve as a role model for other states to consider projects like this and really thinking about ways that we can find a safe and happy home for every child in the United States.
I'll open this up for either of you. When we talk about the need that exists for foster parents, for foster families, for children, is this just an awareness thing where you've got to tug at people's heartstrings and you've got to find people with a heart for this particular mission, or is there incentive that is offered to people to get into the foster care world, whether it's learning more about or taking that next step and actually being a foster parent?
Well, I'll tell you, we saw that as such a need to get that information out there. We're always continuing to work to bring potential families into the foster care situation. A few years back, we asked the state legislature to pass the Foster Parents Bill of Rights, because I think it was important for the parents, if they were going to be foster parents, to know what are their rights, their accountability, health-wise, what they could provide for these children. I think that has been very successful as well for them to have an understanding, and again, hopefully it's brought more of the foster parents in. The second part of that is many times we get these incredible foster parents, and they would like to adopt that child or those children and whatever. And so for us in the Attorney General's office, we're moving very quickly. We're trying to get in there so we can expedite the court timeline so that we can actually make that happen rather than taking years and years before you get a termination of parental rights. We can be engaged early on and really deplete that time frame for these children.
We're going to take a quick time out. We'll continue the conversation with Attorney General Lynn Fitch and Laurie Todd-Smith from the Office of Early Childhood Development, part of HHS. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Important stuff. Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about.
This is very important.
Huge news. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Glad to be with you on this Tuesday morning. A beautiful day in the Magnolia State, the 13th of January. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.com. Guest this morning, Lynn Fitch, the Attorney General right here in the state of Mississippi, and Laurie Todd-Smith. She is Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Office of Early Childhood Development, that is part of Health and Human Services. And we're talking about an initiative, a project that is happening today in Mississippi, the Suitcase Bundle Program, in which volunteers are packing suitcases for children with stuffed animals and Bibles and some basic toiletries, and creating something that is all theirs, their very own. This is targeted at foster children and targeted for foster children and children in really tough circumstances. I used the word incentive a second ago when we were talking about foster parents and the need for foster parents. There is a balance that has to happen. When you're recruiting foster parents, you're recruiting people to take on children, perhaps in addition to their own biological children. How do you balance creating an incentive program or something that might create people with bad intentions to get involved versus making sure that you've got the right people that are getting involved, that have the ability to take on a child in their home?
Yeah, I'll let you answer that as well. But from the federal perspective in our office, you know, we work and provide technical assistance to states to build the best policies like you described that keep our children safe and incentivize and retain and recruit foster families. I think there are a lot of erroneous rules that sometimes make it very difficult to become a foster family. So those good people that do want to be part of this. I think there's some licensing, streamlining, and various things that we're doing on the front end to help states in their recruitment efforts, and then retaining those families with the supports they need to care for a child in their home that might have those emotional problems and need some additional supports. And so we really have worked hard and want to continue to work with states like Mississippi in identifying and streamlining licensing, focus policies on kinship, getting kids reunited with families as much as possible, and then retaining those folks with our outreach efforts. I'll let you answer the part about the safety of the children.
No, that's exactly right. And such a partnership as we're working together, looking at ways to streamline, being supportive, looking at the vetting process, because you're exactly right. You want to have the best foster care parents for these children because they are looking to this new home life to be loving, to be compassionate. Again, these children are many times they're traumatized. And as you said, Richard, they show up with nothing. They might have a Kroger sack. And so, again, you know the perils and the trials and the tribulations these children have been through and the emotional scarring. So you've got to have the best of the best ready there with open arms to take care of these children and help them along the way. It's just talking about that many children that are in foster care or wards of the state for the state of Mississippi. It's really important to have these foster parents step up and to help. That's why we've been working with all of our partners, certainly our federal partners, our state partners, to make that the best situation that we possibly can. We in the office do a lot of the termination of parental rights for these children. And so we want to make that as quickly go by, get them in that foster home in the less amount of time that they possibly can. Last year alone, we freed up 647 children to be adopted. So the ultimate goal is to move them out of that 4,000, to move them into a great foster care situation, and then have them very quickly adopted. So again, that they can start their journey of hope and their new life.
You know, you bring up adoption, and you have a couple of times, and that's such a fascinating process, and maybe fascinating is not the right word. I think most of us know parents that have gone through the adoption process, whether it's just out of an abundance of love and wanting to open their home, or because of a situation where maybe they're not able to have children. And I've watched people go through that process and see how emotionally, financially draining it is, that it can be a really expensive process. And you've heard the stories about parents who are, adopting children from foreign countries and are having to pay exorbitant amounts of money to be able to do that. It feels like we have children that need homes right here in Mississippi, and yet, Laurie, you mentioned the red tape a second ago and the rules and the regulations. It feels like it's really an arduous process for parents who want children in their lives, and yet it's just there's so many hoops to jump through that they can't even do it and find themselves having to go to foreign countries. How do we fix that?
I don't have all the answers on that, but I have been to some really innovative states that are using the use of technology to match families with children in their own communities. Statistically, it shows if the child can stay in their own community and can be connected to where they were previously, their outcomes are better. And so there's a program called Care Portal that I just think is amazing, and it works with churches and faith-based groups to match the needs of these foster children, or of it could be used in the same way you just described. To matching families to the right children is really an important piece of it, and then providing those supports. But at the federal level, we are certainly trying to reduce that red tape, help states in streamlining all of their services. I don't know, too, if you've also heard about First Lady Melania Trump's new initiative called Fostering Futures, and she has been very focused on foster care and youth, and I think you'll see more to come in the near future. She's focused on children who are aging out of the foster system and helping provide access to education, health care, housing, financial literacy, education, and so our initiative of a home for every child is under the umbrella of the Fostering Futures Initiative, which is a nationwide effort. So super exciting time for reform in this space.
And Laurie, it's interesting to hear. I mean, one of the things that we heard, whether it was during campaign season or the early days of the presidency, President Trump's talked about getting rid of regulation and making it easier. We normally think about that in terms of, oil and gas projects or, major development projects, cutting through the red tape and getting through permitting. Is that kind of making its way through the entire administration and some of what you're talking about here?
Absolutely. Just in the early childhood space where I oversee Head Start and child care and tribal home visiting programs, we have in 1965, when Head Start started, I think there was a pamphlet of maybe 7 pages of regulations. There are over 200 pages of regulations now for Head Start, and so my office has been looking at ways we can streamline those, get back to the basics, and let states what they do best in managing these programs.
Visiting with Attorney General Lynn Fitch. As we talk about the bundling the suitcase program, also Laurie Todd-Smith from HHS. She's with the Office of Early Childhood Development. Attorney General Fitch, we've talked so much about education gains in Mississippi, and I know that doesn't fall specifically under your office, but when we're talking about foster children, early childhood, Head Start, all of this kind of works together.
Oh, absolutely. Again, we have to empower these children. They need to have their education continued. You mentioned several of those great organizations that do take these children and they make sure they are educated and they're loved and they have all the shelter needs that they might possibly have. But we have to continue to educate these children. They're vulnerable. And right now in January, this is Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And unfortunately, we see too many children that are vulnerable that do get caught up in this system. And as you said, sometimes they're not the best of the foster care that we need to be serving these children. So I think that's another angle we have to look at. How can we find these children? How can we protect them? And how do we not let them go down that pathway of being caught up in some human trafficking as well? And we know that over 50% of these children are trafficked by a family member or someone that they trusted and loved. So it's a really tough balance, but it's one we all have to be engaged in to protect these children.
A packing suitcases event today at Galloway Church in Jackson, going on from 9 until 3. You can, if you would like to participate, go to the Attorney General's website. There is an opportunity for you to sign up for just an hour shift today. Stuffed animals, Bibles, basic needs into a suitcase for children in Mississippi, and that can be all their own. Thanks to both of you for coming in this morning. Always enjoy the conversations. Attorney General Lynn Fitch and Laurie Todd-Smith from the Office of Early Childhood Development. Hope you guys pack a ton of suitcases and put a lot of smiles on children's faces today in Mississippi.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's Mornings with Richard Cross. We've got half an hour left with you on this Tuesday morning. We'll jump into some of the big news stories that are going on affecting our state on the other side of this timeout. My thanks once again to the guests, Attorney General Lynn Fitch and Laurie Todd-Smith from the Office of Early Childhood Development under the HHS umbrella. We're back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross. You can text the show on the C Spire text line 601-879-4395.
From the Seabrook.com.
Get up and start your day right with Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
C-Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. Are you in the market for a new or a previously owned vehicle? And when I say are you in the market, I mean today, next week, next month, in the next year. If you are, or maybe I'm just sparking an idea for you. You're ready to get into the market and you didn't realize you were. I'd love for you to visit with my friends at Belk Ford and Oxford Toyota. They're located on Highway 6 West in Oxford, convenient, easy to get to, and man, have they got a selection on the lot right now. But it's not just about the selection of vehicles they've got. Whatever you're looking for, new Fords, new Toyotas, you're covered in a big selection of previously owned vehicles. But lots of car lots have inventory. So what sets Belk Ford apart? What makes Oxford Toyota different? It's the people that work there. The Belk family has been in the automobile industry for over 100 years, over a century. Since the 1960s, they've had the Ford dealership. They've been in their current location on Highway 6 West since the early 1980s. I tell you that to say that they're not going anywhere, and you're dealing with people that are friends. Right, you build relationships with the salespeople. Not a lot of turnover on that particular front, and you're going back to the same person, whether it's for a repair or an oil change or getting your tires rotated or you're ready to purchase another vehicle. They're going to be there. Great people. I have been a customer at Belk Ford since I was 18 years old. I am now 45, so we're into our third decade. And have no plans to go anywhere else. Do what I did. Check them out at Belk Ford, Oxford Toyota, Highway 6 West in Oxford. Online, belkford.net, oxfordtoyota.com. Lance, I don't know if you saw this or not. I'm not sure how much time you spend on Facebook, but there was an interesting announcement that was made yesterday from the Tate County government Facebook page. Did you see this?
I did not.
All right, I got it for you. So we maybe we're breaking a little bit of news. There is a very familiar name in the economic development space in Mississippi, and that name is Joe Max Higgins. He ran the Golden Triangle Link for a couple of decades. It's well documented how successful that series of development projects with mega sites has been, and all the businesses that were attracted. Joe Max has launched a consulting company. It takes a little bit of explaining on the name. It's 2EQ Last. Second equals last. And like in the development space, the economic development space, finishing second in a project reminds you of that No Fear. You remember the No Fear T-shirts?
Oh yeah, you still see them around here.
Yeah, occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Those are collector's items now. But they had one that like the catchphrase on the back of the No Fear T-shirt was "Second place is first loser."
That's some Ricky Bobby-isms.
Yeah, exactly. You get the idea, though.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot of first-place finishes in the career for Joe Max Higgins. He and his consulting firm, Second Equals Last, are partnering with Tate County. Tate County Board of Supervisors, the Tate County Economic Development Foundation made the announcement last night. This contract will go into effect on February 1st. Joe Max Higgins in the release said, Second Equals Last looks forward to leveraging more than 40 years of economic development experience to help Tate County position itself for sustained future growth. I'm excited to work alongside a community that is richly endowed with strong infrastructure, committed leadership, strong educational partners, including Northwest Mississippi Community College, and deep human capital. My role is to help provide a roadmap that will lead to exponential growth of Tate County. We will review the entire economic development program and to work collaboratively with local, regional, and state partners involved in the recently formed Regional Economic Development Effort. So, we've talked a little bit about that Regional Economic Development Effort, a partnership that exists between Tate County, Panola County, Yalobusha County, and Lafayette County. Ryan Miller is the director of the Economic Development Foundation with Lafayette County. Came into that role a year and a half ago at this point, and has kind of reorganized that office, and in conjunction with the EDF people in Yalobusha and Panola and Tate counties, they put together this most recent regional partnership. And Golden Triangle Link, in a lot of ways, is a blueprint for other parts of the state of Mississippi. But it's not a one-size-fits-all blueprint. So I think you've got to look at the particular part of the state that you are in, because we know that geographically, economically, socioeconomically, and from a workforce standpoint, not all of the state of Mississippi is exactly the same, right? I mean, East Central Mississippi has different topography and geography than North Central Mississippi, and certainly different than the coast and different than the Pine Belt. And so there's not a one-size-fits-all solution to these regional partnerships, but there is a best practices one-size-fits-all. And as we've talked with Joe Max Higgins in the past about what makes one of these partnerships successful, it's community buy-in, it's leadership buy-in, it's financial buy-in, and it's a willingness to take some risks and sweat it out a little bit and have it be a long-term play, not a get-rich-quick scheme. Dr. Michael Heindel at Northwest Community College about Joe Max and his consulting firm said he brings ideas, policies, and processes so far above anything this county has ever seen. Chris Fleming, the incoming EDF chairman for Tate County, talks about proven results and positioning us, talking about Tate County, to compete more effectively for new industry and investment while also fulfilling our commitment of support for our existing industry to ensure their continued success and growth. It's a big play by Tate County, and a significant play, and I think those of us that know Joe Max Higgins know that he was not going to sit on the economic development sidelines for too terribly long. An incredible tenure, a tenure full of success in terms of projects in the Golden Triangle, and now broadening that out. Hopefully we'll get to visit with Joe Max soon. I exchanged some messages with him last night, and we're planning to visit on the radio soon. If we rewind to when that news came out, it was a surprise. People that operate within the economic development space were surprised to see the announcement that Joe Max was leaving Link. That story appears to be in the rearview mirror for everyone. Joe Max moving on with his consulting firm, Golden Triangle Development Link, moving forward with its work to continue to try to grow within that region, within that part of the state of Mississippi, and maybe a little bit of a fresh start for everyone. And if Joe Max was sitting right next to me right now, I would say to him, and I will say to him when we visit, you, Mr. Higgins, are not everyone's specific taste. Joe's aggressive. He's a little brusque at times, but the results speak for themselves. And so I'm interested to see, one, what this looks like for Tate County going forward, and two, how it affects this regional partnership with Tate, Yellowbusha, Lafayette, and Panola counties together. So interesting news on that front. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Again, 601-879-4395. Always glad to hear from you. Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you every day by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless. All designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. We will be back to wrap up this edition of Mornings with Richard Cross in just a couple of minutes alongside Lance Tolbert. I'm Richard. More coming up.
From the Venable Glass Traffic Center.
You're waking up to what's happening. Mornings with Richard Cross. Right now on Super Talk, Mississippi.
What's a frequency can if your entity? I was brain that locked out. No, not up to speed. I thought I packed you an idiot street. Tunnel passing from the outside the street. I never understood.
Good to be with you one last time. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Quick reminder about David Fisher Land Company. If you're looking for agricultural or recreational land in Mississippi, Arkansas, or Louisiana, or you've got a piece of property you are looking to sell, check out their website, davidfisherland.com. You can see the current listings on their website throughout the Delta and the entire state of Mississippi. And you can reach out to them as well, whether you go through their website or their Facebook page, davidfisherland.com. David, Jack, or Travis would love to help you with all of your land needs, buying or selling, looking for a membership in an equity hunting club, whatever it may be. They will help your dream of a land purchase become a reality, or your investment of a land purchase become a reality. It's David, Jack, and Travis at David Fisher Land Company, davidfisherland.com. I wanted to go back to something that we did in the first hour. And in case you have missed the news, Robert H. Dunlap, Bob Dunlap, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Bob, called a lot of different things through the years. Bob Dunlap passed away on Sunday night at the age of 96, with a legacy that will be carried on through his children and grandchildren with Dunlap and Kyle Company. He was a leader in the tire and rubber industries, but also remembered as a humanitarian. There will be a visitation for Bob Dunlap at the Gateway Tire Indoor Practice Facility at South Panola High School from 10 until 1 on Saturday. And then a service at 1 p.m. That's this Saturday, January 17th. A private family burial will be held immediately afterward. Bob Dunlap was born in Batesville in 1929. He was a Navy veteran who devoted nearly a century of hard work to give back more than he received. He began his career working at Dunlap and Kyle Company, a small family-owned business that sold cars, farm equipment, and tires. As chairman and CEO, Mr. Dunlap grew Dunlap and Kyle Company, including Gateway Tires and Hesselbein Tires, into one of the largest independent wholesale and retail tire distributors in the South, with sales first topping $1 billion in 2021, just a few years ago. But it wasn't just the Gateway Tire stores that you're so familiar with. He was involved in a lot of parts of the auto industry that aren't talked about a lot. Retreading, truck tires and equipment tires, rubber trading all over the world. He was a brilliant businessman, but even a more brilliant philanthropist, including scholarships for many, 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 many children in Batesville and the Panola County area. We were actually having a conversation in the office yesterday about the fact that even though Bob Dunlap was an Ole Miss fan, he was an Ole Miss graduate, he didn't really care where young people chose to go to school, whether it was Ole Miss or Mississippi State or Millsaps or Northwest Community College or any of the other community colleges in the state of Mississippi. He just wanted them to have that opportunity. And the only stipulation was take care of your grades. I had someone tell me yesterday that Mr. Dunlap required the students that he helped with the expenses related for school to send their report cards. I know we don't really call them report cards in college, but you get the idea. Had to keep him updated on what their grades were, that they were making progress toward a degree or a certificate, and was legendary in that regard. But it was donations to schools and colleges and universities and churches and charities, and there were a number that were very, very close to his heart, including Palmer Home for Children, the Boy Scouts. He was an Eagle Scout himself. Outdoor causes. Bob Dunlap was a conservationist and was credited with planting millions of trees. He was a coffee drinker, a dog lover, a political enthusiast, a storyteller, and above all, a giver. Bob Dunlap lived every day with purpose, as his obituary states. We offer our condolences and fond memories to the family and friends of Mr. Bobby Dunlap, who passed away at the age of 96 on Sunday. Thanks for being with us. Mornings with Richard Cross. We're back at it tomorrow just after 6 o'clock. For Lance, I'm Richard. Have an outstanding Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.